Let's move to the U.S. now, where the presidential hopeful Joe Biden is currently closest to the 270 electoral college vote, but the race is not over yet. According to Reuters, Biden has 243 votes so far, while Trump has 214. Now, states like Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona and Georgia are still counting votes and could cause an upset. Now, the candidate that receives the 270 mark first wins the election, regardless of who has more votes. Now, once all the ballots are counted, Trump's campaign has called for voting to stop, accusing the Democrats of election fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has launched the Biden Fight Fund to ensure every vote is counted. Well, joining us is Dr. Siphamandla Zondi. He's the Executive Director of the Institute for Global Dialogue. And Doc, good morning to you. Thank you very much for making the time to speak to us. Firstly, it's been 24 hours. Your overriding sense of how this election has gone?
I apologize. I'm with the Department of Politics and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg. Yes, so the election has been a nail-biting contest, as it was always expected, and it has been a referendum on Trump, as it was expected, and it was marked by high tempers, as again it had been expected, but it's much closer than it was expected. Some people are optimistic and thought it was going to be a blue wave in favor of Biden. And of course, the Trump side thought they were going to win it by a landslide. Yeah. It has turned out to be more hotly contested than we thought it was going to be.
And pollsters, what should we do about them? Should they just resign from their jobs? Because they obviously read this one completely wrong, and it's not the first time, by the way.
Yes. Pollsters are not prophets. They predict on the basis of trends, on developments. You know, trends can continue in one particular way, and one particular day something happened and it changes the whole dynamic, and whatever we might have predicted on the basis of might actually change. So we need those predictions. We need the polling. We also need it in our elections in Africa, all over the world, because it does create an energy. It does also create a possibility for people to have more structured conversations about elections and why they matter, not rather than just talking about the personality you like and the personality you don't like, which doesn't really help us deepen the democratic political system.
Yeah. Dr. Zondi, the U.S. electoral system, I'm going to ask you the question because I've been asking this question since yesterday. Is the system itself in crisis, or is Trump seeking to plunge it into crisis? That's before I actually ask you the question about whether or not other countries should still look up to the U.S. as an example of what democracy should look like.
Democracies tend to be fragile, tend to be unpredictable, tend to have all these tempers, they tend to have all these dynamics that make it exciting. And they are not perfect systems that are seamless and efficient. That business, that's dictatorship as well. Democracies are always have to controversies, and they test the systems and institutions whether they can be able to resolve contradictions from time to time. They work well when they are like that. And in democracies, there's also room for mavericks, for populists, for militants, for moderates, and that's the beauty of it. The more variety you have, the best it is. What it becomes a problem is when institutions cannot act predictably in response to those turbulences that are a critical part of democracy that make it exciting.
Yeah. The electoral college system that is in America, Doc, has it reached its sell-by date? How much longer will people tolerate its suppression of the popular vote, or should we say the will of the people?
Yeah, there is a system that is designed principally to manage their federal system, to ensure that every little part of the U.S. gets to have a significant say in who gets to become the president, not just those few that have the big numbers and stuff like that. So it's almost like a proportionating effect on the political system. And all political system and a number of electoral systems have that element of finding a way to make sure that the outcome reflects the proportional dynamics of different segments. If you damp that, there would be parts of a country that become completely insignificant, whose voice fizzles out completely in the system. Finding that balance is difficult. We always are talking about reforms of electoral systems. We do it in this country, all over the world. We're talking about refining it and refining it. And I guess the Americans will also be talking about how to refine it rather than simply say you dump this and you adopt this, because no system is perfect. First past the post system, direct election of the president, they're also not perfect. None of the systems are perfect on their own.
Final question to you, Doc. Yesterday, I asked a question on Twitter whether or not we are going to see a smooth handover of power. And someone remarked and said, well, I mean, if anything, this shows that America is no different to us here in Africa and some African states where we have seen chaos when it is time for one leader to exit and for another to take over. So why should African states look up to America as an example of what democracy should look like?
Yeah. It's a competitive system. Sometimes an element of that competition might be an irrational competition. It's part of the democratic system. That's what makes it exciting. And we've got many situations where there's a delay in the appointment of government because there's a dispute for 3-4 months. In Belgium, they at one point did not have, just recently, a couple of years ago, you don't have a government for a year. So it's part of the system, and therefore the U.S. democracy is a democracy, and has all those implications we have even here. So, and Trump, by not indicating that he will accept the results of elections if he loses in the campaign process, is signaling that there might be a contest, and by filing the lawsuits right now in Wisconsin and might be filing it in Pennsylvania and perhaps Michigan, is also creating that atmosphere where there might be greater contest and even violence flaring up over the results of the elections.
All right, Dr. Siphamandla Zondi, thank you so much for your insights. Thanks indeed. Much appreciated. Lovely chatting to you.